Hello and welcome to Open Line. I'm Starlene Stringer. A good water supply is something that we all depend on, and Irving Water Utilities provides reliable service today. We're going to focus on the best way to ensure a strong supply for the future during the show and protect the water system. Donna Starling is the Water Programs Manager, Barry Allen is a Water Programs Specialist, and Tom Moore is the Environmental Compliance Supervisor. I'd like to thank you all so much for being here. Well, it's going to be an interesting show, one that a lot of people will get some great information that they need to know about so that no one gets in trouble or does the wrong thing, and of course helps conserve water. Well, Donna, we're going to start with you first. In these hot summer months, people use a whole lot of water, but there are some restrictions to know about. So let's start with those. What are the restrictions?
Well, it is important to know when you're supposed to use water and how much you're supposed to use. And we have a water management plan that has two features. It has a drought contingency portion and it has a water conservation portion. When we're in a drought, when we've had some sort of triggering condition, we place restrictions on our residents and our businesses for how much water they can use for irrigation and other purposes. But when we're not in a drought, which we haven't had a triggering condition this year with all the rainfall we've had in the last 18 months, then we use our water conservation plan to determine how much water we use. So as a part of that water conservation plan, we have year-round, twice weekly watering. So in Irving, you're only allowed to water no more than twice per week according to your address. So if you're an even address, then you water on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and if you're an odd address, you water on Wednesdays and Sundays. In addition, when we're at this time of the year, when we hit April 1 and through the summer to October 31st, we restrict watering in the middle of the day because that's the least effective time to irrigate. So from 10 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening, it is against city ordinance to water.
Is there any other reason that level of restriction would change, or how could it possibly do so?
The way we would move into our drought contingency plan, which would heighten the restrictions that we place on our residents, would be if we have some sort of triggering condition, and that would mean if our water supply had dropped significantly, and that takes quite a bit. In fact, our lake is full at this point. I checked it yesterday, and we're right at the full level, and all that rainfall that we had in the spring helped us stay there.
Okay, and Barry, I'm going to ask you to help us a little bit more with this topic. So when you're talking about the restrictions, what is the reason behind the time of day restriction?
Well, the time of day kind of talks about the evaporation rate. When an irrigation system goes off during the middle of the day, there's a high evaporation rate, and we want to lessen that, and that's why it's a good idea not to water between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. when it's, say, 95 to 100 degrees outside.
Okay, and I know you have some props here with you today, so let's talk about handheld hoses in particular. What about the use of those?
Well, this time of year, under current restrictions, anybody can irrigate with a handheld hose, provided that they have a hose nozzle, right? Also, we want them to use a hose nozzle if they're washing their car out in the front. Oftentimes we see people that just kind of forget about it and they lay it down on the sidewalk or their driveway, and they're rinsing their car off and they're washing their car off, and the whole time this thing is running. So please get a nozzle.
And what about irrigation systems?
Irrigation systems need to be checked twice a year. We encourage that, and we call that a zonal testing, because if you don't do that, you'll never know if this nozzle is pointed the wrong way, it's spraying the cars in the street or the neighbor's house. So we encourage that. We also encourage residents to pay attention to the weatherman. If we're getting a lot of rain in July, then there's no need to really water your grass as long as we're getting about an inch a week.
Wonderful. And just true confession with us, we used way too much water recently when we had a neighbor call and say water's just running down the street, and it was because of our irrigation system. Something was wrong with it. It wouldn't cut off, and it just ran and ran, and we were out of town. It was horrible. So finally they had to turn it off, and stop it at the actual box, which is good. If people hadn't been alert and aware of that, it could have been a whole lot worse. So thank you for pointing out the importance of irrigation systems. And we will get back to those restrictions in just a minute, but I want to bring you into this, Tom, and talk a bit about the discussion. What is FROG?
FROG is an acronym for fats, rags, oils, and grease, which are the big four offenders of causing sewer blockages within the city system. We want to draw everyone's attention that we don't want frog being flushed into the system. So.
Oh my goodness, and what a interesting prop you do have there, that little frog coming out of the toilet. So I love it. We have some pictures actually to show of grease in a pipe.
Oh, dirty pictures.
And
All right.
yeah, and how does this affect the water system?
Well, you can see it diminishes the ability of the sewer system to carry the human waste and toilet paper that it's supposed to. And so if you put anything down the sewer system that you shouldn't, it can cause clogs very easily. And nobody wants that backing up into their home. The mess, the expense,
Yeah.
very disagreeable.
Yeah, I feel like this is like a personal family attack. I'm like blaming my husband and then now my mom, but we had an experience like that, and it was very expensive to have someone come in, and I guess they had a hose or something they have to stick in there and pull all this stuff out. And so,
Plumbers have various tools they can use.
my goodness, it was a mess. Probably, yeah, just as bad as some of those pictures you're showing there. So really, really bad. Tom, I'm going to come back to you for more in just a minute, but Donna, I'm going to come to you now because we've gotten a lot of rain this year. So why is it always important to be thinking conservation?
Well, we want to make sure that we're pardon me, using our water wisely. And water is in limited supply. In the future, we may find that we have less water. We're always looking to expand and to have backup within our supply system. But we want to make sure that people are using the water wisely. First of all, it's an expense, and so it'll help them save money as long as they're being conservative. And we want to make sure that we have it there for the future. And with projections in the next 30 to 50 years that Texas will have to more drastically monitor and reduce their water use, we need to be aware of that at all times.
Wonderful. And something else that our residents need to be aware of, Barry, is RainFree Sensors. What exactly do they do?
Well, the RainFree Sensors prevent the irrigation system from coming on when it's, say, 36 degrees. And they also prevent the irrigations from coming on if we've had a significant rainfall. And that's a requirement that almost all cities have had since 2008. There was a new House bill back then that was created by the TCEQ, Texas Environmental Commission on Quality, and they stated that all new systems shall have a rain sensor. Most of the cities like Irving, what we did was we made an amendment that required all existing systems have to be retrofitted with a RainFree sensor. The key element to that, in my opinion, is the free sensor. Because if the system is not disabled in the wintertime and it's 25 degrees, we're going to have icy roadways.
That's very true, and what a mess that can be if people leave their sprinklers on, and yeah, not good. So where do you get them?
They're available at all the box stores. They come in different varieties. You can spend $35 to $350 for a really nice fancy one. This one here wasn't that expensive. It was basically about $40. This is actually a wireless unit, kind of similar to the two units that we have at our facility. The other ones, thank you, Tom. The other ones are hardwired. This one here took me, the first one I installed, about 40 minutes. The second one that I installed took me about 20 minutes, so they're very easy to install.
That's good. So if it took you 20, 40, it'd probably take me a good 2-3 hours that you've got it down. But Donna, seriously, we have talked about all the required sensors and also the restrictions. So how are these rules enforced?
We do respond to every complaint call that we receive from the public. So every time someone notices something going on, we'll respond to that, follow up, make sure that the people who are responsible for the infraction are knowledgeable. I think first and foremost, it's important to understand that we want people to know what the ordinance says and what they need to do in order to comply with that, so that we can be conservative with our water use. And we give ample warning and plenty of time to make adjustments. And we'll even help. We have staff that will go out for a water audit at a home. They won't actually touch the irrigation system, but they'll work with the homeowner to or resident to walk around the yard, look at how the irrigation system is operating, see if there's any noticeable situations that can be resolved, and then either talk the resident through how to take care of that, or advise them to have a contractor. Maybe a licensed irrigator would be certainly where the direction we want to go if it's an irrigation system, come out and make whatever changes necessary. If there's some sort of in-house leak, then they'll help them identify that and then talk to them about what they can do to resolve that issue. And sometimes we have some things that we are able to give to our folks that we're helping. And one of the things that we advise them when we're talking about irrigation systems is that they don't need to be watering unless their lawn requires it or their landscape requires it. And so a lot of times we'll give out something like this soil moisture meter. And what this will do is once you've placed it in the ground, and you want to be careful because this is soft metal, so you don't want to just stab it into really hard ground, but you can get these at many landscaping stores. Just place it in the ground, read the meter, and if it's moist, then you don't need to be watering. However, if it's near the dry end, then you say, okay, it's time to run my irrigation system, and you can take this out, store it in the house, keep it safe, and then you can check on a weekly basis to make sure. You don't actually have to water twice a week. We've gotten so much rainfall in the spring that most weeks you didn't need to water at all. But this is a good device. Also, registration at watermyyard.org is very helpful because our residents can go out there and select a weather station based on their address, and then they can also sign up to get weekly notifications about the status of rainfall and whether or not they need to water. And each week we'll get, on Monday, I get a notice that says no watering needed this week because we've had enough rain lately that we've only had one notification I can think of in the last several months where we needed to water. So we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, sounds like a great website and also a great little device there. So are they expensive? You guys actually give them away?
We'll give them away. If we come to your home and are helping you sort through some of those issues, we'll have one. A lot of times we're at public festivals where we're involved in public education. We'll have some of those on the table. We gave them out recently at a June festival that we were at. So, and this is of course the time of year when people really notice these and say, oh, that's something I know I need.
Right,
and
exactly.
So we
I know, I was looking at it, I was like, okay, I'm going to be following you and you
can
today.
have that.
Thank you. I will take that. Thank you so much. I received that. Thanks, Ms. Donna. And Barry, we're going to come to you next because I have a question about what we should do if we see our neighbor watering at the wrong time. Should we go up and say, hey, you're not supposed to water, or do we contact you? What should someone do?
Well, you can do both. You can let your neighbor know, hey, you're watering on the wrong day and at the wrong time. If you don't get any kind of communication, then certainly call us. And what we will do is we'll go out, we'll see if we can identify that. We'll try to contact the homeowner, and we'll try to educate the homeowner. We'll say, look, you don't really necessarily need to water right now because of some of the reasons that Donna talked about. If they are watering on the wrong day, then we'll let them know that, oh, by the way, you've got an odd address and your days to water are Wednesdays and Sundays. We'll let them know that Monday, Thursday, and Friday is not a watering day. And that's important because in our distribution system, that allows our water to cycle. On the days that residents and other parts of the community can water, our tanks cycle. And the Monday, the Thursday, and the Friday gives us time to recover that part of the system. The tanks fill, in other words.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, Tom, I promised you I was coming back to you, and I want to talk more about the things that get clogged up in our pipes. And now let's go to our next set of pictures here. We're going to look at some rags. Rags in the system, how big of a problem are those?
Oh, there's been a marketing trend lately of more and more of these convenience items for cleaning and sanitizing. And unfortunately, they really can do a number on your sewer lines and block them up. Now, if everyone would read the instructions, very frequently they'll say, "Do not flush" on the item. But it's just a convenience to be able to dispose of them, especially if you're using them for diaper changes or something of that thing. Who wants to keep that? You want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. But especially when you put them down pipes where you've got some cooking grease, oils, food fats that you have also put down into your system, that is a clog looking to happen. Your pipes may be blocked up to this condition, and a little bit of a wipe in there as well, and it'll shut the sewer line down quick. So you flush the wipe, you'll clog the pipe.
I like that. Flush the wipe, clog the pipe. Not a good thing. But what do we do with them, though? I have a 3-year-old. We just got past that whole diaper
Into your
stage.
solid waste, into the trash. Yeah, where they.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Really? Hopefully they have one of those diaper cans around when you say that. Okay, so thank you for that information. And now, Donna, I'm going to come back to you because we have talked about how not to water. So let's give some tips on the proper way to water. What is cycle soak watering?
Cycle soak is a method of watering to make sure that you're not overwatering and that the water is maximized in its absorption into the landscape. And so what we suggest is, we have some clay soils in this area which tends to get saturated very quickly. So what we want people to do is turn on their system, and you can run it through the entire set of stations, and water for 5 to 7 minutes. Then let the system rest for at least an hour, and then run it again for 5 to 7 minutes. What that does is it allows the water to soak in fully, and then it can absorb more water on the surface. Otherwise, if it becomes saturated, the water just begins to run off the top of the surface because there's no more capacity for it to soak in.
Makes
and then
sense.
you're paying for something that you're getting no benefit from.
Okay, thank you for that. And so, Barry, I know another possibility is actually planting native and adaptive landscaping. So what difference can that make?
It can make a lot of difference. For one, you can have a landscape that looks really nice and lush in the hotter parts of the year. And those plants are adapted to receive less water than, say, hydrangea or something that needs a lot of water. One of the things that we've identified are certain species of plants, like different sages and stuff like that, that produce flowers year-round, and they just need minimal watering. Some of those plants, after the roots are established, typically don't need to be irrigated. Now, you can obviously supplement some of those with hand watering, but they don't necessarily need to be watered with the irrigation system. The irrigation system is basically for your turf grass, and so what we do is we also encourage turf grass that's also drought resistant.
Okay. Well, it's time for another picture with our friend Tom, and this time, Tom, I know he's like, what are they putting up? It's a problem in a line that's part of a resident's home, and in this case, when this happens, who's responsible?
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's of course very much like what I was showing. Those fats, oils, and grease, if you're going down your kitchen sink, or they will really make a mess. The oils block up, clog the pipes, and eventually you're going to have a plumber come clear them out.
So the resident's totally responsible if there's a problem with their line?
On their side of the meter, yes ma'am.
Okay, but if it's on the city side of the meter?
The city is constantly battling the fats, oils, grease, and now the rags as well. The Water Utilities group have some very specific specialized vehicles that can wash or vacuum or even video inspect our sewer lines.
Oh,
so they
wow.
have a very elaborate preventative maintenance program that is constantly battling keep the blockages and the overflows from occurring within Irving. It's a rough battle. We could use some help if people would please stop flushing those wipes and putting that grease down the drain. Would be we'd very much appreciate.
Okay, so give us some alternatives for frog disposal. Maybe grease bags.
Well,
or
we talked about
plastic-
the wipes
Yes.
going into the trash. The grease part, if you have a large volume of the grease, for instance, around the holidays, people like to deep fry the turkeys and things. You can have up to 5 gallons worth of that peanut oil or whatever left over. Once it cools, return it to its original big container. And there's a station, a recycled station, that is available for that quantity of oils that is on the Northlake College campus. It's on the east side of the campus near the tennis courts. And you can bring the oil there, and it will be collected, and they use it to manufacture biodiesel fuel.
Okay, so a little extra effort, but it can make a huge difference.
If you've got smaller quantities, rather than dumping it down the drain and causing yourself plumbing problems, we could recommend something very simple, like an old can that you've emptied, and the city can provide lids a lot of times at the city events, and we'll have these available for people to come by and pick up for it. You can use that to cap off the pipe, cap off your can full of grease, and you can just put it in your solid waste with your other trash. Now, yes, a little more sophisticated is these fat trap bags that are available down at our customer service offices at City Hall. They're available for purchase, The city sells them at cost. They're 76 cents a piece, an odd amount, but they're really great for putting small amounts of oils, grease into the bag, seal it up, throw it in the trash.
Wonderful. Now I'm going to go back to you, Donna, because you mentioned a little bit about home audits that the city offers. What exactly does that include? How does that work?
Well, generally, we're just trying to help folks think about how they're using water and where it may be escaping at their home system. So what we're doing is we have a sign-up form online, and folks can go out and register for one of these audits or visits from one of our staff members, and then one of the folks will go out and talk to them about whatever their particular concerns are. Sometimes they want to understand whether or not they have a leak in the house. They think they have one, but they're not really sure. Can you help me look at my meter and figure that out? Can we do a test and see if if I'm using or if I have a leak, if my meter indicates that I have a leak? And so they'll just sort of run through a group of tests and talk to the resident and help them through figuring out where the problems may be. A lot of times in a house, it's a leaky toilet, and you don't necessarily know it, but we'll provide I think Barry had one of those.
Yeah, I was going to ask him because you have a leak detection program actually, right?
That's
Tell
correct.
me about that.
Yeah. Well, the leak detection program is two parts.
Okay.
One is we have a proactive leak detection program, and that assists us in identifying those known leaks, the leaks that you call in. And prior to us sending a crew out, we want to know where that leak is. The water itself can travel for a block or more and then surface. So we want to identify where the leak is and pinpoint. That saves us a lot of time, effort, and money. The second part of that is we want to be retroactive, and so we have some instruments that we set out in the distribution system, some leak detection instruments, and we've got lots and lots of toys. I like to tell people we have more toys than Batman to find water leaks with. Some of these instruments, what they'll do is they'll turn themselves on in the middle of the night, and they'll listen for the sound of leakage. And they turn themselves on in the middle of the night when demand is very low. We use another instrument to go out the next day or the next week to interrogate that, and those two instruments will communicate with each other and let our technician know that, hey, there's a leak here somewhere. And then what we'll do is we'll use the same types of tools and identify where the leak is located, and then we'll set the process so that the crews can go out there and fix that leak. And that's real important because those hidden leaks that don't manifest themselves, that's the leakage that, say for example, one leak can, over a year's period of time, can lose over 1 million gallons of water.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of water. And you, my friend Tom, have had a lot of things for us to look at that are very interesting today. And I see you have 3 more things in front of you. What do you have there?
Well, it's just an example, a little experiment that we set up for people to be able to see that when you put toilet paper into the sewer line, it disintegrates the way it's intended. But if you put something unintended, like the diaper wipes and the other assorted cleaning towels, and they just don't dissolve. That includes things like Q-tips and dental floss and things that are very common for people to just conveniently dispose of into the toilet. One push of the crank and it's gone, and they don't consider it until things start backing up and it blocks up the sewer line. So please, the only thing that should be flushed down your toilet is toilet paper and human waste.
There you go. And so, Donna, I'm going to come back to you now for the next question, because when people turn on their water faucet, they don't always think about where the water is coming from. Can you tell us about the source?
Well, our water comes from Lake Chapman, which is, I guess, approximately 70 miles away. And it follows a pipeline. We bring it down and place it in Lake Louisville. And then the city of Dallas takes it out, treats it, and sends it over. And actually, about 85% of Irving's water comes from Lake Chapman. And then another 15% we have a contract with the city of Dallas to provide, so that we have that backup resource available, make sure we're always in good shape for our water supply.
And I know that the actual quality of it's important too. And the city recently released its water quality report. What does it show?
Well, it shows that we do have good, high-quality water in Irving, which is our highest priority in the department. But it's very important, and I brought a copy of it. This is available online. We sometimes call it the Consumer Confidence Report, CCR, or Water Quality Report, which is the title that you see here. We have paper copies available that people can ask for. It tells actually what the various the content of the water is. So if you want the chemical analysis of it and all of the information related to that, that's contained in this particular document. It's also available online. Anybody can go onto our website, access this report, either read it there or print it out for themselves, or we'll send you a hard copy of that. And it has a lot of supplemental information that's related to all the topics that we've talked about here today. And so it's a really good report to take a look at each year. We produce that in June every year. It has to be out, the state requires that it be out by July 1st.
Okay, thank you. That's really interesting, really important. I definitely want to check that out. And we're almost out of time, so I just want to get some last final thoughts from each with you. And I'll start with you, Donna. What message do you want us to leave with today?
Well, I think probably the most important thing for people to know is that Irving has a very high quality of water, that we have people working literally around the clock 24/7 to ensure that it's available and that it's a high quality for their use.
Thank you. And we come to you next. Barry, what would you like people to take away today?
Well, I'd like to let them know of the importance of water, because a lot of times people don't really understand that. It's kind of an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And next to air, water is the most important thing. You know, our hospitals, our restaurants, our businesses couldn't stay open, couldn't conduct their business without good, clean drinking water. And those people need to understand that our guys that are out maintaining the system do a good quality job of that.
Wonderful. And I can tell you, Tom, I'm guilty. I feel guilty, and I can tell you that I've gone away with the fact that I should not use the baby wipes to take off makeup and then drop it in the toilet or use it on the child. What else should we take away from you today from here?
Oh, just cease the grease and don't put those wipes and down the toilet. Like I say, check the products, and they'll let you know how they're should be properly disposed of.
Good advice. Thank you all so much for taking your time to be here. You were going to show us one thing. Do you want to show us the little flipper thing you have there?
The flapper.
Oh,
Flapper.
yeah,
I knew it was
I've got
close.
some
Flapper,
cool things
flipper.
here that we give away. Donna was talking about the water audits. If we go to somebody's house, we'll look at the age of the toilet. A lot of times we find out that the toilet, the biggest water waster in the house, is leaking, and it's usually this flapper. And so what we'll do is, if we're doing the audit, we'll give them a flapper. If we're talking to them on the phone, we can say, hey, you can go up to any store and get a flapper. They're cheap, $2 to $3. If we are in the bathroom and we notice that they've got an old shower nozzle, then we'll give them a low flow shower nozzle. Same thing. And it's to address the issue of how are you using water in the house, or are you wasting water in the house? And a lot of times people just don't understand that, and so that's why these things are really beneficial.
Education. Thank you all so much for sharing all that information with us. We appreciate it, and it's good to know we'll get all these freebies if we come out to some of the events, and I'm taking that with me today.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. We appreciate your time. And thank you for watching. I'm Starlene Stringer. Please be sure to join us on Thursday, August 11th at 1:30 p.m. for our next edition of Open Line. We'll see you then.